All right, so as we kick off your credit repair journey, we need to get a few things straight, right? We need to come to an understanding about exactly how this thing called credit works and what your credit score is made up of. Okay, so there's 5 key factors when you're talking about how your credit score is made up. We need to first talk about your payment history, okay, which makes up 35% of your credit score. That is a lot. Okay, so when you look at your overall credit score, it can go from 300 to 850 is your credit score. So you can manipulate 550 points. 35% of those 550 points is your payment history. Missing even one payment can cost you up to 100 points. So we can't miss any further payments as we try to clean up your profile. Let's talk about utilization. Utilization is simply the amounts that you owe versus the credit limits that you have on your revolving credit. This does not count your student loans or any mortgages or auto loans. This is simply, more often than anything else, credit cards. Okay, so anything that you have on credit cards as far as the balances that you owe versus the credit limits that they've given you, you need to make sure that you are no more than 9% on any individual account or accumulative accounts altogether, which means, let's say you have $100,000 in overall credit card limits. You can't have any more owed than $9,000. Once you reach that 10% mark, you'll see a drastic dip in your score. Once you reach 30%, you'll see another drastic dip. The optimal area that you want to be in is anywhere from 1 to 3%, but no more ever than 9%. Next, we'll be addressing your credit history. Now, this is different than payment history. Payment history has everything to do with what you pay and how on time you pay it. Credit history overall is your average age of credit, which means simply that the amount of credit accounts that you have divided by the amount of time that you've had them is your average age of history. We need to get you to about 5 years average age history. Now, this can only be done through time. But what I'm telling you when I'm talking about average age of history is don't close any accounts. If you pay off a credit card, don't close it, just leave it. Put a pack of bubble gum or a tank of gas on that card just to keep it open so it keeps accumulating more time. The more history you have, the better. Now let's move on to your mix of credit. This is really important as we go through the process. A mix of credit is simply the different types of credit that you have on your profile, okay? So when you're talking about mix of credit, you're talking about credit cards, which are revolving credit, installment loans like auto loans or personal loans, and you need to have one short-term installment that's anywhere from 0 to 24 months, and then you need to have at least one long-term installment, which is 36 months and above. Okay, so an auto loan will be a long-term installment. A mortgage loan will be a long-term installment loan. A short-term installment would be like a personal loan, which might be a 24-month loan before you have it paid off. Okay, so we need to look at getting you a good mix of credit. These are things that we will help you with throughout the process. And last but not least, the one that people more often than not don't pay attention to and really do damage to their credit file with during the repair process is inquiries, your new credit. This becomes a problem. Applying for new credit during the credit repair process is simply a no-no. Unless you absolutely must get an apartment, your car breaks down, so you got to get a new car. Things like that, totally understandable. But applying for new credit cards without telling us or without us telling you, absolutely a no-no. These are things that are unforgivable during the repair process, and it does irreparable damage because we then have to go back and start disputing those old inquiries. We don't want to set ourselves back. We don't want to make this any longer than it needs to be. So please, please, please avoid applying for new credit if it's at all possible during this process. So those are the 5 things that make up your credit file and your credit score. And so for you to understand that, you will be able to help us move you through this process a lot faster, and we'll be able to get you off the books as quickly as possible.